Because so much of the data that was being relied upon to extrapolate conclusions around the treatment of the Uyghurs was so damaging for the CCP. You know, they were just publishing the stuff about sterilization statistics. It's not as if they came out in a leak. They were published by the government.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
So they stopped doing that. And they stopped doing that in a whole bunch of areas because there were very talented researchers like Dr. Adrian Zentz who would take all of that and like, well, that's not really explainable. And this is a state policy in this area or that area. So they stopped doing that. So there is a very severe information blackout. It's very hard to work out what's going on. What we do know is that some of the very large facilities that were interring Uyghurs in very large numbers have been closed. But that does not mean that the persecution has stopped. There's been an adaptation of that repression. And we're trying to work it out. But one way that we definitely know it continues is through labor transfer schemes. So these are, in effect, forced labor schemes, involuntary labor schemes, where mainly ethnic minorities are conscripted to work, state schemes, and dumped in companies. And most of the time, the companies can't say no. They end up with a whole bunch of people working against their will from ethnic minorities who've been conscripted into these government schemes. Those have exploded in recent years. They've got much, much bigger, and they're not just in Xinjiang, they're over the whole of China now. And that's, by the way, how we know that there is a problem with the procurement of things like solar panels, which rely upon polysilicon as their key ingredient. More than 90% of that comes from China, and about 40% of that, maybe slightly less, from the Uyghur region of China. The companies who are doing that, I have to say, if they're participating in these labor transfer schemes. So we know that the risk of forced labor is unacceptable. So those have been exploding. In addition to that, it seems that there are more people in prison than ever before. And it seems as if there are large purpose-built blocks of flats which are highly securitized, which seem to be housing Uyghurs as well. So it's definitely not the case that the repression has stopped. There is an adaptation, but very, very severe persecution of Uyghurs continues to this day, not abated.